Round 3 is going to be size. Now, I've discussed the rule in the past videos, but what we are looking for is figures that can stand shoulder to shoulder to shoulder to shoulder with each other in a relatively standard 6-inch Godzilla collection. And ultimately, that is why these three overtop HIYA. Now I know, hold everything. It is so slight. The HIYA is a tad bit bigger than the rest, but ultimately, I feel as if the bigger that these figures get, the more weird it's going to look. What do I mean by this? Let's give MonsterArts a good example here. I already made this example when I compared it to the MonsterArts, but the MonsterArts Shin. That is one of the tallest that is, I think, the tallest MonsterArts Godzilla figure, aside from the Kokyo Kyoku. And this is not like height or anything. It's in terms of in terms of weight or anything, it's the tallest as far as the figure goes. Because that would be like up to here. The reason why they made it so big was because it was in scale with that of the MonsterVerse Godzilla or 2014, and it was the biggest Godzilla at the time before Earth came in and smashed everybody. And then Bandai realized, oh wait, we shot ourselves in the foot, we can't make our Godzilla Earth like 3 times as big as Shin, what do we do? So they made him a bit shorter, a bit bigger than MonsterVerse, and just kind of gave up on scaling then. What does this have to do with HIYA? Well, by making... I get that HIYA wanted to make their Godzilla in scale, or maybe that's what they were trying to do. Make their Godzilla in scale with that of other 2014 Godzillas, i.e. the MonsterArts, the NECA, and I guess even Playmates is 2014. Or maybe that wasn't their intention. Maybe they were just trying to make something bigger that people would love. And honestly, I love the scale. But it's just, relatively, if you have a Godzilla collection with each figure being exactly 6 inches, it's gonna look weird having a much bigger Godzilla in the collection compared to that of the others. If you don't believe me, look at my previous video where I actually brought in some more 6-inch Godzillas to compare with Playmates. And I showed that the scales were actually pretty noticeable. And even for me, it's so minor, but yet it's so obvious once you actually see it. So ultimately, because these three are designed to be 6 inches. He's like 7 at clocking in on almost 8, so he would scale well with the NECA Kong, but that's about it. Even in his own figure line. But what I really don't get is, if they made it in scale with him, Godzilla 2014 is actually confirmed to be about this height. Which is in scale with these three as far as like 6-inch figures go. So, why they would make this one bigger, but not 2014, I get it. They want to make their own scale. But the problem with that is that by that logic, you'd make Kong Skull Island like a tiny little 3-inch figure. No, not even 3-inch, it's like 2-inch. So, if you really wanted that in scale, you would have done it with everything. And... that also goes for MonsterArts. NECA and Playmates kept all their figures uniform with each other, but at least MonsterArts saved themselves with this one. So ultimately, that's why, as far as figures go, he's a bit on the more bigger side, which, I mean, bigger is better in some instances, but not this one. So these three get a tie point, he loses this round. Next, let's talk about accessories. And just to point this out, no, boxes and disattached tail parts are not an accessory. It has to be interchangeable or, actually, again, interchangeable or has to be added on to the figure. That's what an accessory is. So let's go ahead and introduce the accessories. First, the HIYA. What does it come with? It comes with an alternate head part to simulate and an alternate neck part to simulate the atomic breath scene from King of the Monsters or GVK. And also comes with just a general head part to shoot the atomic breath with. Now granted, yeah, this is optional, by the way, as far as like shooting the beam goes, but if you want shooting up, we'll explain in just a sec. The MonsterArts comes with alternate hands. I only have one because I got this thing used, kind of. I actually got this at retail, but unfortunately, someone actually stole the other hand, which, why would they steal the hand, not the figure? Weirdest thief ever. So, this one comes with the alternate hands. The NECA features an atomic breath, obviously, and comes with an impact base for said breath. And the Playmates features a rubbery little atomic breath with a piece of battle damage skin. And yes, this does count as an accessory because it's interchangeable. That is the key thing, folks. It is interchangeable. That's what battle damage is. It's interchangeable. So as far as assembly goes, it's pretty complex, kind of, with the HIYA, but you'll understand it. I'm not going to showcase it on camera because that'd be like the bajillion time I would have. So what you want to do is you'd actually want to remove the head part and remove these 3 neck segments. There are 3 neck segments, and you want to make sure that all of them are still in one place, so you actually still keep them. Put this one on, and put this one on, and it should look like something like this when you actually stick it on. Put the atomic breath, aiming upwards like this, into Godzilla's mouth. Have it aligned properly, like that, and of course, keep that thing in, and boom, he'd be lighting himself up right into the air. Or, if you want it optional, you could actually just take off the head like this and put this head on, keep the beam in there, and boom, he's shooting straight ahead. My only problem with this is that the beam is angled so weirdly, because it's not coming straight from his mouth, like as far as like literal straight goes. It's actually off at an angle, looking like it's more coming from his tongue than anything. But the beam itself is honestly one of the best beams I've ever had. Because, like, look at this. It is so beautifully painted, so beautifully translucent and sculpted, and it doesn't feature much paint. But there's actually, like, a clear rod that actually, over time, it won't, like, sway to one side, which is honestly something that the original MonsterArts 2019 completely failed at. So, this is honestly really great. Really fantastic. The MonsterArts, as far as how to change the hands, this is the right hand. You'll just pop it off, not from the Hot Toy style peg, but literally from the ball joint that it's connected to, and disattach it, and then put this one on there instead. Now, my only problem is that it's blue, there's a blue mouth, but there's no beam. Granted, yeah, there is beams that you can use with this one, including that of the NECA V2, which I'll actually just briefly showcase here. It does kind of plug in, but it's not meant for it. And it doesn't come with a beam. I'm judging it on its own accords, nothing else. This, I get it. Hands allow for expression, but again, a big problem is that this is literally just the 2019 hands. So in all actuality, these would be the interchangeable hands. But I guess they just kind of kept those on. That we need an accessory, then boom. This is underwhelming for a lot of different factors, so moving on. The NECA V2 obviously has the beam, so we just peg it right into his mouth. No alternate jaw part or needed. And moving my camera actually slightly to the right here, you can actually see that, hold on, we'll actually just take this out. This part of the beam actually kind of rests in, and you can lean it up against something. Problem is that it doesn't click in, and even the mouth extension is kind of poor. It kind of falls out a little too easy, even for my liking. So, like, and plus you got to find that right spot where it actually kind of grooves in, and even then it doesn't like lock in. So even trying sticky tack doesn't really work. So it looks great when you can actually use it. So props to NECA there, but I wish the connection was a little bit better. And last, we're going to take a look at the Playmates as accessories, which this piece of like lightning bolt shaped skin goes on Godzilla's chest like that. And it looks great. Honestly, rather seamless once you actually like accept that it's there. And has the best connection as far as atomic breath goes. But over time, it is going to sag because it is made of rubber. And to prove this, I actually have a second NECA Playmates Godzilla beam, same version. And you see how, like, okay, you can't really see it on camera, but here's the one it came with. See how drooped down that looks? Compare that to this. And you see how upright that looks? Yeah, that's purely because of how long it's been in there for. I will say, though, it's definitely got the best connection. So that's it for accessories. Who wins the point? Now, we both know that it's not the MonsterArts. It comes with very little and it's so underwhelming. Because there's no beam. Nothing. It's Spitfire, but it's not Spitfire, if that makes any sort of sense. The HIYA features the best beam in terms of looks, but the NECA features the best beam as far as like overall goes because of the impact base. While the Playmates features the best beam as far as execution goes, but also features a piece of battle damage. Can't go wrong with battle damage, huh? But really, I gotta honestly say it's between these two. Why? This beam is just really small. Like, look at it in comparison to the NECA. I need a better comparison. Here it is compared to the NECA beam. And then here it is compared to the HIYA beam. There's no comparison there. So really, it's all down to the NECA and HIYA again. And I gotta say, HIYA wins. Why? Because it rounds back to articulation. And while both figures are in fact great in their own right, the connection on the HIYA is a tad bit better, well, actually really much better than the NECA is, because the mouth does not click in. It doesn't click into the mouth, and it falls out really easily, and this just kind of sits. Like, not everyone's going to have a use for this. While everyone can at least agree that, even though it might sag or something over time, this is a sturdy connection, and probably the best one, because it's actually got a rod that sticks in, and doesn't feel like cheap plastic like this one is. No bashing NECA on this one. It's just, this feels really brittle. While this one actually feels a bit more sturdier in the hands. And can actually look up, while the NECAs cannot. So, point for accessories has got to go to the HIYA.